The planet Valtor 4 was a dead world, its skies covered with storms of ash and sand. Once it had been a mining colony full of light and machines, but now it was nothing more than ruins and bones, the ground cracked and black from plasma fire. Rin Voral, a Threxian trader, landed her small cargo ship on the edge of a broken city. She came searching for old parts, metal scraps, and anything that could earn her a few credits in the outer markets. Her people were peaceful merchants, soft-skinned and careful. They hated war. They feared humans, and they never stayed long on cursed worlds like this. But Rin was desperate. Her ship needed repairs. Her family needed money. And the storms outside were calm for the first time in months. She wrapped her cloak tight and stepped into the dust. The wind howled through the broken towers, carrying strange sounds. She thought it was the metal shifting, until she heard a weak voice, faint, broken, and human. "Help, please," it said, the sound almost lost in the sand. Rin froze, her heart racing. She turned slowly toward the voice and saw a shape lying near a half-buried transport pod. It was a man, covered in gray dust, his armor cracked, his skin pale. Her mind screamed to run. Everyone in the galaxy knew the stories. Humans came from a death world. Their home planet was so dangerous that even their plants could kill. The Galactic Council had banned contact with them after the Great War. Any species found helping a human could be executed. But Rin looked at the man again. His breathing was shallow. His eyes half open, he whispered, "Don't leave me." And then his hand fell into the dirt. For a moment, Rin just stood there, torn between fear and pity. She remembered her training, her people's laws, and then she remembered her mother's words. "Mercy is not weakness, my daughter. Mercy is the highest courage." She knelt beside him, checked his pulse, and gasped. He was still alive. His armor was marked with the emblem of Earthfleet, a silver planet wrapped in wings. She had only seen it in ancient history files. No human fleet had been seen for almost 50 years. She tried to lift him, but he was too heavy. His armor fused with burns and wires. Still, she dragged him slowly through the dust toward her ship, the wind growing stronger, lightning flashing in the sky. Each step felt like a crime, each breath a whisper of doom. But something inside her refused to stop. When she finally reached her ship, she struggled to open the hatch. Alarms blinked as sensors detected human DNA. She silenced them and pulled him into the med bay. Her small medical drone scanned his wounds. It beeped in confusion. "Unrecognized physiology," it said. Rin sighed. "Yes, of course he's human," she whispered. She cleaned the blood, sealed his burns, and injected him with stabilizer fluid. She didn't know if it would help, but it was all she had for hours. The man remained silent, then finally his eyes opened, blue like the oceans of old Earth. "Who are you?" he whispered. "My name is Rin," she said softly. "You are safe now." He tried to sit, wincing in pain. "Where am I?" "Valtor 4, she replied. "There's nothing left here but ghosts." He laughed weakly. "Then I guess I'm one of them." For a moment they just looked at each other. Two strangers from different worlds, one ruled by fear, one born from fury. He said his name was Lieutenant Aiden Cross, Terran Fleet Engineering Corps. His ship had crashed during a reconnaissance mission long ago. He had survived on ration paste and storm water until everything ran out. Rin couldn't believe it. The Galactic Council had said all humans were gone, exiled to their death world. "Forgotten by the stars. Why are you here?" she asked. "Because," Aiden whispered. "We were looking for something we lost, our people." Rin felt a chill. She didn't understand his words, but something in his voice felt heavy, ancient, full of sorrow and power. Outside, thunder rolled like the anger of gods. Inside, Rin's ship lights flickered. Her console beeped. She glanced at the screen and froze. A red signal was blinking. Frequency unknown. Her ship's AI spoke in a flat voice. "Long-range transmission detected, encrypted signal. Origin, Earth Fleet Command." Her breath caught. She hadn't sent anything, but then she saw it. A faint glow from the man's armor. A tiny beacon, pulsing weakly. Aiden followed her gaze and whispered, "It's automatic. Emergency link." Rin's hands trembled. "Who will hear it?" she asked. Aiden's eyes turned distant. "Everyone who ever swore the Terran oath." Far away, beyond the spiral arms of the galaxy, deep within Sol space, an ancient satellite awoke, its systems humming after decades of silence. Old codes flickered through subspace relays. A cold, mechanical voice spoke to the void. "Beacon 47 Echo active, Terran distress confirmed. Transmitting to Fleet Command. On a moon orbiting Neptune. Beneath the ice, massive engines stirred. Human warships buried in frozen hangars began to glow with power. A sleeping AI whispered, "Waking fleet command units." Lights turned on one by one, and in the heart of the command ship a woman opened her eyes, her uniform bearing the crest of Earth. "Who sent the signal?" she asked. The AI replied, "A lone human. Stranded on Valtor 4, the woman stood, eyes like storms, and said only 3 words. "Prepare the fleet." And far away in the broken silence of a dead world, Rin Voral felt the air change. The dust stilled for a heartbeat, as if the planet itself held its breath. Then the sky above her ship flashed with faint light, not lightning, but the first hint of something vast moving in the dark beyond. Rin Voral had not slept since the signal went out. Her hands trembled as she stared at the blinking red icon on her console. It had stopped flashing hours ago, but she knew the damage was already done. Someone out there had heard it, and now everything was changing outside her ship. The storms were silent, too silent. The sky had turned an odd shade of blue-gray. She had lived her whole life trading in dead worlds, but never had she felt fear like this. Lieutenant Aiden Cross sat on the edge of the medical bed, weak but alive, his eyes following every movement she made. He spoke quietly. "You saved me." "Didn't you?" Rin didn't answer. She was checking the scanner. The long-range sensors were picking up patrol frequencies. Galactic enforcement ships were sweeping the sector. "They're looking for you," she said, her voice low. "If they find us with a human on board, they'll burn my ship. They'll execute me." Aiden frowned. "Execute you? For helping someone?" "That is the law of the stars," she whispered. "Any contact with humans is forbidden, your kind." "You were called Deathworlders." Aiden's jaw tightened, his voice cold but steady. "We didn't choose that name." Rin looked at him, her purple eyes full of worry. "They say humans can survive where no other species can, that you destroy everything you touch." He smiled bitterly. "Then you shouldn't have touched me." But she didn't smile. Instead, she said softly, "I couldn't leave you to die." Hours passed in uneasy silence. Aiden worked on his armor with shaking hands, trying to disable the beacon. But it was fused by plasma fire. "It's useless," he said. "The fleet will know where I am." Rin stared at him. "Then they will come?" "Yes," he said, looking at the sky through the cracked viewport. "They always come." Her ship's communicator beeped sharply. She flinched, then switched it on. A deep voice filled the cabin. "Unregistered vessel. This is Galactic Enforcement Unit 7. We have detected illegal transmissions in your area. Prepare for inspection." Rin's heart raced. She whispered, "Hide." But there was nowhere to hide. Aiden stood limping toward the cargo bay. "I'll go in the crates, maybe they won't scan." She nodded and sealed the hatch, her breath trembling. Moments later, 3 patrol drones landed near her ship. Beams of blue light scanned every surface. A mechanical voice announced, "Biosignature irregularities detected." Rin swallowed hard and stepped outside, her hands raised. "Trader Rin Voral, license 447 Delta. Just collecting salvage." The drone hovered close, its lenses glowing red. "Your ship carries unauthorized biological traces, explain." "It's contamination from the ruins," she said quickly. "Old war debris." But the drone wasn't satisfied. It extended a probe toward the hull, searching deeper. Inside the ship, Aiden watched the scanner from the shadows. The probe's beam came closer, his hand clenched on his weapon. But he didn't fire, not yet. Suddenly, the drone's light flickered. Static filled the air, and a faint transmission interrupted the inspection. A voice echoed from deep space, distant yet powerful. "To any listening post, this is Earth Fleet Command Unit Solria, responding to Beacon 47 Echo. Confirm distress. Deploying Rapid Response Task Force." The drones froze mid-air, their systems stuttering. The transmission wasn't coded in galactic format. It was human, raw, encrypted beyond alien comprehension. Rin's translator failed to decode it, but Aiden understood every word. His eyes widened. "They're on their way." The drones glitched. Sparks flew. Then they powered down completely. The electromagnetic burst from the human signal fried their circuits. Rin stared in shock. "What was that?" she asked. "Home," Aiden whispered. She rushed to the console, looking at the data logs, and gasped. "You don't understand. This signal was picked up by every system within 50 light years. The Council will think it's an invasion." Aiden looked down, his voice heavy. "Maybe it is." That night, Rin sat alone in the cockpit, staring at the storm horizon. Lightning flashed but made no sound. The universe felt like it was holding its breath. She thought about her family, her trade license, her quiet life before this day. She thought about the face of the dying Ma she had chosen to save, and she wondered if mercy had been a mistake. In the distance, streaks of light appeared across the upper atmosphere. She thought at first it was lightning, but then realized these lights moved with precision. Formation patterns, hundreds of them. Her scanner blinked, unknown vessels detected, configuration not in any galactic registry. Velocity beyond normal range. Aiden appeared beside her, still limping. "They're here," he said quietly, Rin whispered. "Already?" He nodded. When a Terran beacon calls, distance doesn't matter. The sky above Valtor 4 filled with silent movement. Massive black silhouettes sliding through clouds, triangular and sharp, glowing faintly red beneath their hulls. The Threxian trader had never seen anything like it. No alien fleet moved this way. No technology she knew could hide entire warships from sensors. One of the ships drifted low enough that she could read the markings across its armored side. TFS Vengeance. The ground shook as the air pressure changed. Sand rose in spirals, magnetic storms flared. Her ship trembled under the force of their descent, Rin whispered. "By the stars. What have I done?" Aiden placed a hand on her shoulder, his voice calm but proud. "You did what no one else would. You saved a human." Her eyes filled with fear. "And because of that, they will burn this world." He shook his head slowly, his gaze steady. "No, Rin, they won't burn it," he said. "They'll protect it." Above them, the first Terran dreadnought broke through the clouds like a shadow made of steel. Its engines glowed like suns, its hull scarred by ancient wars. Every galactic patrol within range turned and fled. Unable to face what they were seeing, Aiden watched the sky, his voice soft but filled with something deeper than fear. "The fleet has awakened," and from deep in orbit, Admiral Rhea Solari stood on her bridge, looking down at the dead world, her expression unreadable. "Signal confirmed," she said. "Retrieve the survivor. Identify any locals involved." A pause. "Do we engage?" Her second asked. Rhea's lips curved faintly. "Not yet," she said. "First, let's remind them why the galaxy feared us." As the first Terran fighters streaked toward the surface, the storm clouds split apart. Light fell on Rin's trembling hands, and she whispered a single word: humanity. The sky above Valtor 4 burned with streaks of silver light. It was not fire, not lightning, but something older, heavier, alive with purpose. Rin Voral stood on the open ramp of her ship, her eyes wide as enormous shadows passed through the clouds. Ships shaped like blades, ships that hummed with a sound that made her bones vibrate. Each vessel moved as if guided by one mind, smooth and silent yet heavy enough to shake the air. She whispered softly, "They came for one man." Inside her ship, Lieutenant Aiden Cross watched the scanners flash red, his breath steady, his armor repaired enough for movement. The emblem of Earth Fleet still scratched but bright. He said quietly, "They don't come to rescue me, Rin. They come because no human is left behind." Rin didn't understand. "You mean all this for you?" He nodded. "For one life, yes, that's how it has always been. High above." The Terran flagship, a massive vessel named TFS Vengeance, moved into orbit, its hull black as night, its engines roaring like ancient thunder. On its bridge stood Admiral Rhea Solari, her eyes sharp, her uniform marked with silver stars. She had commanded battles across galaxies. She had seen planets fall, but she had never ignored a human distress call. Her voice was calm but heavy with emotion. "One of ours called," she said, "and we will answer." Her officers worked in silence, the room glowing blue from the holographic displays, data scrolling across screens. "Signal origin confirmed, Valtor 4, one of them said. "Unregistered vessel detected non-human life signs aboard." Rhea nodded slowly. "Prepare retrieval team. Non-lethal engagement. Priority extraction." Another officer turned. "Nervous, Admiral. Council frequencies are active. They're warning us to stand down. They claim we're violating galactic treaties." Rhea looked at him, her expression cold as steel. "The last time they made a treaty, it was to bury us," she said. "Transmit this message to every system listening." Her voice echoed across the void, reaching every listening post, every fleet, every council satellite. "This is Earth Fleet Command. Admiral Rhea Solari speaking. A Terran distress signal has been received. We are retrieving our own. Interference will be treated as an act of war. For the first time in half a century, The galaxy heard the voice of a human commander, and it remembered fear down on the surface. Rin's communicator lit up with encrypted messages, hundreds of them bouncing between systems. The galactic enforcement units were panicking, ordering retreat. "What are they doing?" she asked. Aiden smiled faintly. They remember, moments later. Bright blue light flooded the ruins. 5 Terran dropships descended through the dust, their engines cutting the storm like knives. The ground shook as they landed. Soldiers in heavy armor stepped out, their helmets gleaming, their weapons glowing with quiet power. They moved with perfect precision, each motion smooth and practiced. Rin watched as they approached. Her heart racing. She had seen many armies, but nothing like this. Their armor looked alive, breathing, reflecting the dust like liquid metal. One of the soldiers approached her, tall and silent. His voice calm through the speaker. "Traitor Rin Voral," he said. "You are harboring a Terran soldier. Surrender him for evacuation." Rin hesitated. Looking at Aiden, he nodded gently. "It's all right, Rin," he said. "They're here for me." But before she could answer, another transmission cut through the comms. A voice filled with authority. "Stand by. Ground units," said Admiral Rhea. "I want visual confirmation." The soldier tapped his visor. Activating a feed, Rhea appeared on a holographic screen, her face lit by the glow of the ship's bridge. Rin gasped softly. She had never seen a human like this before. Calm, fierce, beautiful in a way that felt dangerous. Rhea's eyes softened as she saw Aiden. "Lieutenant Cross." "Report." He straightened as much as his injuries allowed. "Survived crash, ma'am. Aided by local trader, Threxian female." "Rin Voral." Rhea nodded. "Understood, you did well." Lieutenant, then Rhea looked at Rin, and for a long moment the galaxy seemed to go quiet. "You knew the risk when you saved him," Rhea said. "The law of your stars forbids it, yet you chose to help." Rin swallowed hard. "I couldn't let him die," she whispered. Rhea smiled faintly, the kind of smile that carried both pride and sorrow. "Then you are braver than most," she said, "and now the galaxy will pay attention." Up in orbit, the other fleets were watching, alien commanders whispering in disbelief. "They came for one human," one said. "No," another replied. "They came for their honor." Suddenly, alarms blared on Rin's ship. Incoming vessels detected. Dozens of galactic enforcement frigates had warped in, forming a blockade around Valtori 4. A voice thundered over the comms. "Unidentified fleet, this is the Galactic Council. You are violating restricted space. Disengage or be fired upon." Rhea's voice answered coldly. "Fire if you wish, but understand this, Earth does not kneel." The alien commander hesitated. He remembered the old wars, the stories of humans who fought until planets broke apart. But fear turned to arrogance, and he gave the order. "All ships, fire." The sky erupted with energy bolts, hundreds of plasma rounds streaking toward the Terran fleet. But none reached their targets. Each shot vanished mid-air, swallowed by invisible shields. Then came the reply, silent at first, then thunderous. Dozens of Terran warships opened fire. Beams of white light cut through space. No chaos, no waste, every strike deliberate. Every target destroyed in seconds. The galactic blockade shattered like glass, their signals vanishing one by one. Rin stood frozen, staring at the sky as the storm clouds lit up in colors she had never seen. It wasn't a battle, it was a warning, a message written in fire. The humans had not returned to conquer. They had returned to remind. Aiden looked at her and said softly, "Now you see what kindness can do," Rin whispered. "It brings fire and thunder." He smiled faintly. "Sometimes mercy needs both, and high above them." Admiral Rhea watched the wreckage drift in silence, her face unreadable. "Cease fire," she ordered. "Let them remember what happens when they forget who we are." The stars shimmered through the smoke, and for the first time in 50 years, the name Earth echoed across the galactic channels again. The wreckage of the battle still glowed in the skies of Valtor 4. Fragments of alien ships burned like falling stars, drifting slowly into the atmosphere. Rin Voral watched from her cockpit window, her hands trembling, her heart torn between awe and fear. She had seen wars before, but never like this. Never with such precision, such silence, such control. The Terran fleet hovered above the planet like watchful guardians, engines humming softly. Not chasing, not destroying, only watching. Lieutenant Aiden Cross stood beside her, armor cracked but gleaming, his eyes reflecting the faint blue light of Earth's warships. "They didn't wipe them out," he said quietly. "Rhea could have destroyed the entire blockade, but she didn't. Rin turned to him confused. Why stop after all that? He looked at her, his voice calm. Because humanity remembers what happens when mercy dies. Up in orbit, Admiral Rhea Solari stood on the bridge of TFS Vengeance, her officers waiting for her next command. Enemy fleets in full retreat, her tactical chief reported. No further resistance, Rhea nodded slowly, her gaze fixed on the wounded planet below. Good, she said. Keep them running. Send medical drones to pick up any survivors. The crew hesitated, surprised. Medical drones, Admiral? She turned toward them, her expression soft but stern. They fired first, but they are still living beings. The lesson is not to destroy. It is to remind across the galaxy, millions of listeners tuned to the transmission of that single order. Alien networks replayed her words. They are still living beings again and again. Some called it hypocrisy, others called it hope. On the ground, Rin's ship shuddered as several Terran dropships landed nearby. Soldiers moved with quiet precision, collecting wounded aliens and stabilizing them with human medkits. Rin stared through the viewport, her throat tight. They're helping them. Aiden nodded. Yes, we don't conquer. We correct. As the dust settled, a distant boom echoed across the plains. The sound of a crash. A ship going down, Rin's scanners blinked. Galactic enforcement vessel, still alive. 20 clicks east. Without hesitation, she started the engines. We have to help them. Aiden looked at her with surprise. After what they did? She gave a small smile. You said mercy matters, didn't you? They flew low over the wasteland. Debris scattered across the horizon. The crashed alien ship smoking, broken in two inside. Survivors cried out weakly, their armor scorched. Their eyes wide as Rin and Aiden stepped through the wreckage. The aliens stared in shock at the sight of a Threxian helping a human. One of them whispered, traitor, but she ignored it. Pulling a wounded soldier free, Aiden followed, lifting a beam with one arm. His strength unnatural compared to theirs. His voice calm. We're not enemies anymore. Not today. When they dragged the last survivor out, a Terran medical drone hovered above, scanning the wounded. Injury detected, applying nanogel, it said. The alien gasped as the gel sealed his wounds instantly. Staring at the small machine in disbelief, he whispered, You help us. Aiden nodded. Rin taught us that kindness deserves to live. Back in orbit, reports came flooding in. Local transmissions, sensor feeds. Hundreds of alien civilians across nearby systems were watching the event. One council minister muttered, The Death Worlders. They heal those they fight, another answered. Maybe that's why they win. On the bridge of the Vengeance, Admiral Rhea stood before the holographic display showing the rescue operation. Her second-in-command approached. The Galactic Council is calling for talks, Admiral. They request negotiation. Rhea didn't answer right away. She looked down at the planet. At the signals of life slowly returning. Send word, she said finally. Earth will talk, but not from weakness. From strength. She walked to the viewing deck. The stars reflected in her eyes. 50 years ago, they called us monsters, she said softly. Today, they remember that we were human. Meanwhile, Rin and Aiden sat near the edge of the wreckage. The air heavy with dust and silence, the rescued aliens avoided their gaze. Confused, humbled, broken, Rin spoke quietly. They will hate me for this. Aiden looked at her, his voice gentle. Then they'll hate you for doing what's right. And one day they'll thank you. He reached into his armor pocket and pulled out a small silver insignia. The emblem of Earth. Take it, he said. You earned this. She shook her head. I can't, I'm not human. He smiled faintly. That's exactly why you deserve it. Above them, the clouds shifted. Sunlight broke through for the first time in decades. The wind slowed, the dust settled. Valtor IV was still a graveyard, but for the first time, it felt like the dead could rest up in orbit. Rhea received a new transmission. A live broadcast from the Galactic Council itself. Their faces pale, their voices trembling. This is an official communication to Earth Fleet Command, the Chancellor said. Stand down your forces. We wish to negotiate peace. Rhea folded her arms. Peace? She said quietly. There was never a war. Only your fear. Then she turned to her crew. Hold positions. Let them come to us, and so the Terran fleet did not move. They hovered like silent watchers. A reminder that mercy without strength dies, and strength without mercy destroys down below. Rin looked to the sky and whispered, The line between mercy and war. Aiden finished her thought. That's where humanity stands. The fleet engines glowed softly, steady as the heartbeat of a world reborn, and across the galaxy, the message spread: humanity had returned. Not to rule, but to remind. For a brief moment, there was peace. Valtor 4 lay silent under the pale light of its dying sun. The storms had faded, and even the air seemed to rest. But peace in the galaxy was a fragile thing, and fear spreads faster than truth. Across 100 systems, panic took root. The Galactic Council declared a state of emergency. They told their people that the Death Worlders had returned to conquer. Old alliances rearmed their fleets, dreadnoughts moved from hidden bases, and propaganda filled every channel. They said Earth would bring fire. They said humanity had come to take revenge. And in the shadows of those lies, a fleet began to gather. Hundreds of alien warships, built by dozens of species united by fear. They called it the Coalition of Preservation, but in secret, everyone knew its real name: the Fleet to Kill Humanity. Rin Voral heard the news through the open broadcasts, her ship's receiver blinking with warning codes. "They're coming here," she whispered. "They're coming for us." Lieutenant Aiden Cross stood near the viewport, his eyes fixed on the stars. He nodded slowly. "Then they'll find we're already waiting." Up above, the Terran fleet was ready. The TFS Vengeance hung in orbit like a mountain of metal and light, surrounded by smaller cruisers and carriers. Each ship bore names that carried history: Courage, Atlas, Endurance, Hope, Iron Dawn. Their engines burned blue, and their weapon ports glowed faintly red. But this time there was no roar of fury, no blind rage, only stillness, the kind that comes before a storm. Inside the command hall, Admiral Rhea Solari stood before the holographic map, her officers reporting new contacts every second. "Coalition fleet approaching through Sector Theta 9, one officer said. 200 vessels, heavy armament, unknown experimental weapons, another added. Civilian evacuation complete, all non-combatants off-world. Rhea's voice was calm. "Good. No one else dies on this planet." She turned to her fleet, her tone sharp as a blade. "Remember this. We fight to defend one of our own. We fight to protect those who showed mercy. We do not fire first, but we do not fall back." In the hangars below, soldiers prepared in silence. Armored suits locked, plasma rifles charged. Drone swarms hummed softly. They weren't fighting for conquest. They were fighting for a promise. No human left behind. When the Coalition fleet arrived, the darkness of space filled with color. Hundreds of alien ships forming a wall of fire, their lights blinking like a second sunrise. A transmission cut through the static. The alien High Marshal spoke, his voice cold. "Human fleet, you have violated the peace of the stars. Surrender now or be erased." Rhea listened, then replied simply, "Earth does not surrender." For a moment, there was silence. Then the stars exploded with light. Missiles, plasma bolts, rail rounds, everything the Coalition had, unleashed at once. Valtor 4 vanished behind a curtain of energy fire, the planet's crust shaking from the impact. But when the smoke cleared, the Terran fleet still floated above the sky, untouched. Their shields shimmered faintly, bending space itself. Then humanity answered. The Vengeance opened fire, its main cannon burning white. One beam cut through an enemy battleship, splitting it like paper. Terran fighters swarmed through enemy lines, moving faster than sensors could track. Every strike was deliberate, every explosion silent and perfect to the aliens. It felt like the galaxy itself was breaking. Rin watched from the surface, her heart pounding. "They're not fighting a war," she said softly. "They're showing the truth." Aiden nodded, his voice low. "The truth that mercy is not weakness." In orbit, chaos turned to silence one by one. The Coalition ships powered down, their captains surrendering before being destroyed. Then came the final command from Rhea. "Cease fire." "They've learned enough." Her words echoed through the comms, and the battlefield went still. Wrecks drifted through the void, but the Terran fleet remained unmoved, unbroken, unstoppable. A single message was transmitted to every ship in the galaxy. This was not vengeance, this was protection. Earth does not strike first, but Earth will always strike back. On the ground, Rin saw the clouds part. Sunlight shining through smoke. She looked at Aiden, tears in her eyes. "They feared you, but now they'll understand." He smiled faintly. "Maybe one day." Up in orbit, Rhea looked at the endless black of space. She whispered to herself, "The siege is over. But the lesson will remain." Her second officer approached. "What should we tell the council?" Rhea answered. "Tell them that humanity remembers mercy, even when the stars forget. And for the first time in centuries, the word Earth carried not fear but respect. The siege of Valtor IV became legend, not for the destruction, not for the power, but for the choice humanity made, to stop when it could have destroyed, to save when it could have ruled across the stars." Every species repeated the same whispered line. The Death Worlders came, and they chose mercy. Weeks passed after the siege of Valtor IV. The skies were clear again, the storms gone, but the world still remembered fire. Ships from 100 systems came to see what had happened. They came in silence, without weapons, without threats, because for the first time in living memory, the galaxy had seen Earth's fleet move and stop. Rin Viral sat inside a holding cell made of glass and light, her reflection pale, her hands shaking, her mind filled with echoes of battle. She had been arrested by her own people, charged with the highest crime, aiding a Death Worlder. The Galactic Council called it treason. The Threxian government called it shame. But to her it had never been a crime, it had been a choice every day. She looked through the transparent wall of her cell, watching distant stars flicker, wondering if one of them was Earth. Her guards refused to speak, her people avoided her name. The council called her the alien who betrayed the stars. But among whispers in the lower sectors, another name had begun to spread. The alien who saved a human. Far away, aboard the flagship Vengeance, Admiral Rhea Solari was speaking with the Galactic Council. Their representatives appeared as towering holograms in her command chamber. "Admiral Solari," one of them said, his tone sharp, "you violated every treaty. You deployed weapons near civilian sectors and interfered in council affairs." Rhea didn't flinch, she folded her hands behind her back. "We retrieved one of our own, nothing more. Another alien." His eyes glowing yellow hissed. "You brought war to our doorstep," Rhea answered quietly. "No, you brought fear to ours. And we reminded you that mercy has a price." The chamber went silent. Her words hung heavy. "Then let us test that mercy," the council's chancellor said coldly. "The alien who aided your soldier will face trial for treason. Will Earth intervene?" Rhea's eyes narrowed. "If you put her on trial for saving a life, then yes, we will." Across the galaxy, the trial of Rin Viral became a broadcast seen by billions. The council hall was vast, its floor shining like silver glass, the walls filled with delegates from 1,000 worlds. Rin stood in the center, her hands bound in light cuffs, her heart trembling but her eyes calm. The chancellor's voice echoed through the hall. "Rin Viral, you are charged with breaking the galactic law of isolation. You aided a human, a Death Worlder. How do you plead?" Rin lifted her head slowly, her voice clear. "Guilty." Gasps filled the hall. The chancellor smiled coldly. "At least you understand your crime." But Rin continued, "Guilty of mercy, not of betrayal." Her words rippled through the crowd. The silence that followed was long. The chancellor banged the staff on the ground. "Order, the law is clear. Mercy toward Death Worlders is forbidden." And then another voice interrupted, deep, powerful, echoing through the hall's speakers. "Then your law is broken." Every delegate turned toward the source. At the far end of the hall, the massive doors opened. A group of armored Terran soldiers entered, walking in perfect formation. Their footsteps thunder in the silence. Behind them came Admiral Rhea Solari, her presence filling the chamber like a storm wrapped in calm. The guards tried to block her, but she kept walking, each step echoing louder, until she stood beside Rin. She looked at the council, her expression steady. "On behalf of Earth Fleet Command, we are here to speak for Rin Viral," the chancellor hissed. "You have no authority here," Rhea smiled faintly. "Neither did she. Yet she saved a life you were willing to let die." She turned toward the assembly, her voice rising. "You call humanity Death Worlders because our planet shaped us in pain, because we survived what others could not, but it also taught us compassion. It taught us loyalty. It taught us to never abandon those who show kindness, no matter their species." The hall fell silent. No one dared to speak. Rin's eyes filled with tears. She whispered, "Why are you doing this?" Rhea looked at her gently. "Because you reminded us what it means to be human." Then Admiral Rhea removed her rank badge, placing it on the council floor. "If compassion is a crime," she said, Then humanity pleads guilty too. For a long moment, no one moved. Then a voice from the back of the hall spoke, trembling. She saved a life, is that not sacred? Another joined, since when is mercy a sin? Then more voices rose from aliens and humans alike in minutes. The hall turned into a storm of voices, shouting, pleading, awakening. The Chancellor's gavel fell again and again, but the crowd no longer obeyed. The walls of silence that ruled the galaxy were cracking. Finally, the oldest of the council elders stood, his voice heavy. This council was built to preserve life, he said slowly. And today, this Threxian traitor has done exactly that. He turned toward Rin. The charges are dropped. The hall erupted in sound. Rin fell to her knees, her tears falling freely. Rhea helped her stand, whispering, "You just changed the stars after the trial." The council issued a statement to the entire galaxy. They called for the reform of the isolation law. They declared that compassion would no longer be punished. For the first time in history, humans and aliens stood on the same stage. That night, Rin was free again. She looked at the sky and whispered, "I thought they would kill me." Aiden, now fully recovered, smiled beside her. No one kills the one who reminds the galaxy of its heart. Up above, the Terran fleet shone in orbit, lights like constellations reborn. And in that moment, every star seemed brighter. Every silence felt lighter, because the price of compassion had been paid, and it was worth everything. The stars over Earth burned brighter than anywhere in the galaxy. They had always done so, but now countless eyes from distant worlds looked toward them. For the first time in history, alien ships hovered beside Terran ones, not as enemies but as guests, as witnesses to a story that began with one act of kindness. Rin Viral stood on the viewing deck of the orbital station Serenity, her reflection gleaming in the curved glass, Earth turning slowly below her, blue and white, alive and endless. She had never seen such a world so full of color and life. Her home world had been made of dust and trade, but this planet breathed like something sacred. Beside her stood Lieutenant Aiden Cross, now wearing the dark gray uniform of Fleet Command, healed, strong, and proud. He looked at her with a faint smile. "You made it," he said. Rin answered softly. "I still don't understand why they let me come here." Aiden laughed gently. "Because the galaxy demanded it. You didn't just save me, Rin. You changed the law of the stars." They stepped into the shuttle that descended through the thin layer of atmosphere, the engine silent, the cabin glowing gold as sunlight poured through the windows. Below them, cities glittered like constellations. Oceans shimmered like glass. Forests stretched green and endless. Rin pressed her hand against the window, whispering, "So this is the death world," Aiden smiled. "No, this is home." They landed near a cliff above a wide ocean. White birds circled in the air. Waves crashed below, the sound powerful but calm. Waiting there was Admiral Rhea Solari, no longer in battle armor but wearing a long dark coat, her hair moving in the wind. She turned toward them, her face calm but kind. "Welcome to Earth," she said to Rin. "You earned this sky." Rin looked around. Speechless, she had seen stars, storms, and fleets, but nothing compared to the sound of Earth's ocean, the feeling of living ground beneath her feet. "I don't belong here," she whispered. Rhea smiled faintly. "No one does at first, but that's what makes it ours." As they stood together, the horizon flashed with light. Hundreds of ships rising in formation, Terran and alien alike flying side by side, their engines humming in harmony. The new symbol of peace and the mark of the unified fleet glowed on their hulls. Half Earth, half galaxy. The message was clear. No more walls, no more isolation. Far across the stars, broadcasts carried the story. A soft-spoken narrator said the words that would echo through generations. Once an alien saved a human, and the Deathworlders answered with fleets not for vengeance, but for gratitude. Rin became a figure of legend, not a hero, not a saint, but a reminder that courage does not always come from power. Sometimes it comes from mercy. Aiden returned to command, but every ship under his authority carried a small Threxian emblem beside the Terran one. When asked why, he always answered the same. Because one act of kindness can move entire worlds. Years later, on the same cliff where they had first landed, Rin and Aiden met again, older, calmer, the war long behind them. Children played in the distance, human and alien, laughing together under the golden light. Rin watched them and whispered, "Do you think they'll remember?" Aiden looked at her with a soft smile. "They won't need to, they're living it, high above." The vengeance still orbited quietly, its engines pulsing like a heartbeat. No longer a weapon of war, but a guardian of peace. Admiral Rhea stood at her window, watching the oceans far below, and whispered to herself, "Mercy changed us more than war ever could." In every corner of the galaxy, statues were raised, and not of soldiers, not of conquerors, but of two figures, a human and a Threxian standing side by side, hands clasped. The plaque beneath them read, "One act of kindness toward a human brought the fury of Earth's fleet, and the rebirth of the stars. As the suns of 1,000 worlds set." The light of those words spread through space like a living flame, and the galaxy, once divided by fear, now shared a single truth, that even in a universe built on war, compassion could command fleets, that mercy could be stronger than metal, and that humanity, the Deathworlders, had become not the monsters of legend, but the keepers of peace. The wind carried the sound of waves. The stars shimmered above. Rin closed her eyes and smiled, whispering softly, "This is what kindness created." And far beyond, through the endless black, the fleet of Earth glided in silence, their engines bright, their message eternal. "No one left behind."